I have no idea what these places would have been. Full of garbage now. Never know when you might just stumble across something creepy in the woods.
Welcome to the Halloween episode of Destination Adventure. You guys know that I'm not really a big believer in ghosts and the paranormal, so it's pretty rare that I come across something, see something, or hear something that doesn't have a pretty obvious explanation, but usually these things drum up quite the conversation in the comments section. So I want to cover just a few different ones that have been pretty popular down in the comments. One of the recent ones was actually the Ghost River that we found just outside of Lac Williams in British Columbia.
The river is gone. Completely gone. It comes out right here.
It is not all that uncommon to find sections of river where the water actually flows through or underground. What made this one very strange was the foam on top where you could actually see the water line.
Here's a perfect example. You can actually see the water line along this rock. There's leaves and then that foam stuck there. All this foam on the trees there, but no water.
I read a lot of comments from folks saying that that's a natural thing. It's the biodegradation of plant matter that is mixed up by the rivers and creates this foam. That's entirely correct. That's how the foam is created. What is so strange is that the water is about 4 feet below the top of the rocks, and that foam was about 2 feet above the rocks. And then I read some comments from people saying maybe it was dammed at the lake, and then I was there after the dam had been opened and the rush of water went through. This is a super remote spot. There's no human activity around there. It's certainly not dammed up above. There was no rain that day, so it wasn't a flash flood kind of scenario. And it's well above the high tide line, so it's not a tide issue either. What I found very interesting is you can see sand behind the rocks that has been put there from a river flowing through, but on top of the rocks and the logs is a thick layer of moss. So this is an area where it would be very infrequent that the water would get high enough to put that water line there, but for whatever reason, it was there. So that is maybe the only location that I've been to that I do not have any explanation. I'm certain there is an explanation. I just don't know, and I haven't read any comments yet that I think have the right answer. Another recent one, the Stewart Brothel.
Pretty thick in here, but there she is.
This is a strange one. Not that anything spooky really happened. It is a spooky location. It's an old brothel. You can only get there by boat. It's got some interesting history. And the first time I visited was last year. When I went to make that video, that was the first and only time I've lost a camera. Losing the camera was entirely my fault. And when I went back to redo that video this year, I got back from that adventure and a whole bunch of the footage was corrupted. And that's from a camera that has never corrupted footage before. So then I did the Porter, Idaho video, came back to finish the brothel video. Third time's the charm, but I got back and a bunch of my audio from my main camera was completely gone. Again, not all that uncommon. My gear, it's not abused, but it's very heavily used in pretty rough conditions oftentimes, and I use this gear until it is no longer functional. And I have been having this year some issues with my microphone cable. I keep a pretty close eye on the audio. I can see on the screen. This time I think I just missed the audio dropping out. So that's my explanation for what was happening there anyways, but just kind of weird to see out of all 3 visits, there was some sort of camera issue each time. I had a really weird one this year at the North Pacific Cannery when I was just there a couple weeks ago. I did the interviews, then I filmed all of my B-roll, and then I did the walk around. And I filmed the B-roll pretty much just from one end of the facility to the very other end, ending in the Japanese section. And in the Japanese bunkhouse, there is a wardrobe that has, on the far left-hand side, a little display and a jewelry box. when I went back and did my walk around with the GoPro, there was maybe 45 minutes to an hour of time elapsed in between. The jewelry box had been moved to the far side of the wardrobe. But there is a caretaker on site. I didn't ask him if he moved it. I just had kind of assumed and moved on. My explanation is the caretaker. If I'm out there again, I'll ask him. A weird one this year that a lot of folks had commented about was the footprints in Whittier, Alaska.
And someone has recently been in here.
You have to walk through about a foot of water to get into where the tunnel is, and there was actually footprints there when I had arrived going into the tunnel. Only one set going in, nothing coming out. There was nobody in that tunnel. I walked it all the way to the end and all the way back. And of course, if somebody was there ahead of me, they would have left those footprints and their feet would have dried as they made their way down the tunnel. I don't know if somebody was there hours before me or days, but they were nowhere to be found when I was there, so I didn't think too much of it. I did a video, this is going back a couple of years now, when I did my tour through Oregon with the beautiful Emmy when she was visiting in Canada, and I was doing a video at Northern State Mental Hospital. It's an insane asylum that's been abandoned for decades now, and they have a crematorium on site. There's a lot of conversation about paranormal activity in the comment section of this channel, so I thought, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to go, and I'm going to go and sit down in the crematorium, and I have a camera that has infrared, so I'm going to turn on the infrared and just sit there in silence, let the camera roll, see if we can see anything, hear anything, see if there's anything in the footage afterwards. There wasn't. There was nothing. Emmy was very scared to go and do that, and when we were talking about maybe going and doing it, I was saying, yeah, we should go at 3 in the morning because it's the time of the dead. And she did not like that idea at all. But when we were talking about it, we were back in the hotel room. All of a sudden, the alarm clock went off in the hotel room. I think it went off at exactly 9 o'clock, so I'm assuming somebody had set an alarm, whoever was staying in that room before us. I don't know, kind of an unexplained one, but it definitely didn't deter us from going and doing our little sit in the crematorium, but we did not do it at 3 in the morning. Okay, the Mexico salt mine.
Being from Canada, my brain is trained to think whether or not I'm on thin ice. I get that feeling out here. It's a weird thing. Almost as weird as this thing.
This was first of all, this was a really interesting place to go and explore. There was dead animals all over the place. And when you're exploring in Mexico, this is just what you find. Being the desert, it dries things out. It totally petrifies things. And as I was making my way around, I found this bighorn sheep that was perfectly intact, totally petrified. And I went to just feel it with my hand a little bit, and it moved along. I could see how light it was.
Oh my God. Look at him. It's so light. Dried right out.
And that was one that a lot of people were really, I don't want to say excited about, but there was a lot of comments down in the comment section about that one. And finally, Germany. This is when I was working back on cruise ships. I explored this facility that was, from what I can tell, it was the Hinkel aircraft factory in East Germany, but history recordings in East Germany and West Germany are very different. And from what I could read, the Hinkel aircraft factory should have been demolished, but what I was exploring was wartime buildings exactly where that facility should have been. I had to sneak into this facility, so I kind of fibbed the guards a little bit when I was going in. I told them I'm working for the cruise ship that's docked right there. I'd like to just walk to the end of the pier and take a photograph. They said, yeah, no problem. But then like an hour later, when I had not returned, they came searching for me.
I really want to check out this house, but the guards are just over here. Let's see if I can get there.
the hell was this place? Look at the friggin' door. One of my favorite things that I found on that location was this old ship that was just abandoned and tied up to the side of the dock there. And I went through and explored the whole thing. As I was coming back up into the galley, I looked up and out the window, and the security guard was right there, just outside looking for me. And I froze, totally still, and he never did see me. But I knew at that point it was time to go, get off the property. So I just left right then, and that ship never made it into any video. I really did try and be on my best behavior when I was traveling abroad, but you guys know my curiosity oftentimes gets the best of me, and that was one of those times. But I hope you guys enjoyed this list. This is just some of the things that have stuck out to me and to some of the viewers. I hope you guys have a great Halloween and a safe Halloween. I hope the kids have a blast trick-or-treating, and I hope you get nothing but tricks. Thanks for watching, everybody.